And sorry, last question. Can I share my screen if I have slides as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I want to make you co-host here just in case I get rugged, right?
Okay.
All right. There you go. Can you accept co-host on Twitter Spaces and make sure you put on mute, otherwise it's going to be feedback.
Yeah. So,
all right. And 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello. Welcome, Ryan from Lightning Labs. It's great to see you today.
very excited to be here.
Wonderful. So as for the audience, everyone knows that the Bitcoin Olympics hackathon is underway, and this is a Bitcoin ecosystem wide event where many communities and tech providers have come together to make this possible. And today we have Ryan Gentry from Lightning Labs with us, and he's going to share with us what help you get inspired and see what types of projects you could build with Lightning and also the upcoming Taproot assets. Right. So with that said, Ryan, the floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share some slides here. Hopefully these are popping up okay.
Yes, I can see them.
Great.
Beautiful.
So what we want to talk about today is, specifically the next frontiers of Lightning. We want to talk about for this hackathon audience, what opportunities there are, kind of greenfield spaces for new applications, new startups, new builders. And I think it's a really exciting time in Lightning and the perfect time to talk about, to build on what Rootstock said in the last session. There's never been a better time to be building on Bitcoin, right? And so I'm gonna, talk a little bit about, kind of where we are today and why Lightning is just like a really fertile and promising area for new builders. Kind of the next frontiers of growth, right? These kind of 3 specific areas that we're really excited about and really hope to see a lot of builders hacking on. And then some kind of like recent examples of, people who've been building in this space, some kind of concrete things to help inspire new builders. So, where we are today, which I think is very exciting, is, Lightning has grown quite a bit. I joined Lightning Labs in 2020. When the Lightning Network was, still in its infancy and, frankly, didn't really work all that well for your average everyday payments. But in the 3 years since, Lightning public capacity has seen a huge jump. We've seen people join the network like, Bitfin or like OKCoin, OKX, Kraken, recently Binance, not to mention, all of the new Lightning native startups, the Rivers of the world, the Zebedees, the Open Nodes, Alby, Voltage, et cetera. There's a ton of brand new startups that have helped kind of make the network more useful, bring more users to the network, and generally, make it the network that it is today, where you can send, hundreds of dollars instantly and basically for free anywhere across the world to tons of different destinations. And so I think it's really exciting to see the growth and Lightning kind of grow into its own and become a network that people are using all day, every day. And, I think just in kind of like the last couple of months, there's been such great news, right? Like MicroStrategy hosted the first ever Lightning for Corporations event and unveiled their first Lightning product at the event, right? That's the first publicly traded company to have something like that, which I think is just like a really special milestone for the network. Second, Voltage launched a partnership with Google Cloud, right? Google Cloud is enormous, and they don't do these partnerships lightly. So I think that was a very cool and validating moment for the network. River, who I mentioned earlier, announced a $35 million Series B funding round led by Kingsway. Very validating for people excited about building a network that you can reach kind of this level of plateau. Similarly, right, Fedi raised $17 million, Azteco raised $6 million, Amboss raised $4 million. I think I highlight this funding announcement specifically to, get new builders excited that there is a lot of potential here. There's a lot of money looking to fund Lightning native startups. Ripio, the Latin American Exchange, announced they've integrated Lightning. Zappo and Rain, two kind of private banks and exchanges in different parts of the world, have both integrated Lightning via Lightspark. Zebedee launched 100 new Bitcoin powered games for their Android users. And then I don't think not on this slide is, Binance, the biggest exchange in the world, integrated Lightning about a month ago. So I think that's like, there's never been a better time, again, to start building on Lightning. There's never been more dollars interested in funding Lightning startups. It's just a very exciting time for Lightning builders in general. From last July, about a month ago, right, Wall Satoshi crossed the 10 million cumulative Lightning payments mark, which is super exciting especially because the second part of this tweet, right, it took them 4.5 years to hit this milestone, but the second 5 million payments that they made, the last 50%, happened in just the last 8 months. So the growth is like really accelerating and accelerating quite quickly. And here's the Binance news, right? And again, this is a little bit of a older tweet because they're now live on the network and starting to do lots of volume, which I think is really exciting. And again, in terms of where we're going and the upside remaining for new developers, right? I think this is a really interesting way to frame it, that payment card volume topped $40 trillion worldwide in 2022, right? And about like 50% of that was debit cards, which is the most kind of competitive with Lightning Network payments. Did Lightning volume top $1 billion in 2022? I'm not really sure. Nobody really knows, but I think that's kind of like, a good order of magnitude estimate. So, the upside here is we still have, if Lightning's destiny is to disrupt all the payment card networks, the SWIFTs, the ACHs, et cetera, right? There's at least a 20,000x left for Lightning over the next, foreseeable future, which I think is incredibly exciting for new builders. You have definitely not missed anything by not building on Lightning yet. In fact, kind of the best days for the network are yet to come. So I think, it's a really exciting way to look at upside for new builders. There's tons and tons and tons of room to grow. And so I think, where to grow, and this is kind of moving on to the next part of the presentation, where thus far I've tried to get across, we've done a lot of growth. We've had a lot of really exciting things happen. And kind of the next stage is, we have a network that works, and now we need to like really 10, 100x the growth. We expect to come from two main areas, right? One is kind of inclusion for emerging markets users into the global financial community. And I've listed a bunch of different companies that are tackling that today, Machinkura, Ebex, Pouch. You can see the logos here. But I think it's really cool and really exciting that we have this global community, each trying to bring new users onto the same network, right? I think that that's just a really cool thing that we all can, collaboratively compete to bring new users, and we all benefit from each other's success. And the second, main kind of growth areas that we're excited about are payments use cases that were previously impossible. So this is, things like Sonoda allowing for, instant settlement of energy bills for miners, rather than waiting 30 to 60 days and taking a bunch of credit risk, right? Just can't do that in the current payment network world, right? Albi with, web-based micropayments, Impervious, Vita. You can see a bunch of these different sectors, podcasting, video streaming, buying ordinals from DZ, right? Micropayment tipping with Stacker News and Mash, open music with Wavelake, right? Gaming with Zebedee, paid messaging with Sphinx and Zion, right? There's a ton of like really exciting payments use cases that were just not possible in the past, but they are now unlocked with Lightning. And so we're really excited to see more developers experimenting there. So on the specific next frontiers of growth, right? Like that was kind of a broad, overview of the type of new technologies we expect to take off in the foreseeable future, but being more drilling down into like specific frontiers of growth and what technologies to focus on. We have kind of the Taproot Assets protocol, which the goal is to make Lightning a multi-asset network. We have kind of AI agents, bringing about the machine payable web, and then open social media and kind of specifically the Nostra protocol, allowing for people to connect and message each other using common open protocols, not within companies. So with Taproot Assets, why are Taproot Assets important? Why do we think this is something worth focusing on? They allow for rapidly settling low fee stablecoin transfers on Bitcoin, which we know have product market fit. You see the amount of transaction volume of Tron or of Tether on Tron rather, and I think it's just undeniable that this is something that people want. You can see here in this chart, just looking at the active addresses of on-chain Bitcoin versus Tether on Tron, and they're about even. And I believe, just under 1 million per day, right? And so that's, I think, one really interesting data point. The second interesting data point is that the transaction volume in dollar terms for Tether on Tron has actually flipped Bitcoin. And I believe that's something closer to, $10 billion per day or $9 billion per day for Tron versus $3 billion per day for Bitcoin, right? And so I think, again, like that's something it's as an entrepreneur, as an aspiring developer, these are really important signals to pay attention to in terms of what users want and where is the puck going. As a final thing, again, if Lightning's destiny is to disrupt the open card networks, Lightning supports one currency today, Bitcoin. Visa supports 180 currencies, and so leveling that playing field with Taproot assets is, I think, a really exciting and encouraging kind of growth thing to support. So what assets do we expect to be issued on Taproot assets? Financial assets, stable coins, rewards points, and down the road, maybe kind of more advanced financial assets. Who do we expect to be the users to go after? Emerging markets users and the companies that serve them, right? And I think Bitcoin, again, is a global community, so there's a ton of potential all around the world for these kind of things to happen. And kind of when Taproot assets, we've been working on this protocol Lightning Labs now for a year and change. We're really excited to get Taproot TAPD v0.3 out, which should be happening soon. We'll keep everybody updated about that. But we have a really exciting community already building products and services, and starting to announce wallets and things like that even before our mainnet launch. So keep a close eye on this because it's going to happen soon, and there's already people building. And here I have some links. We have TAPD 0.2.2 out today. We have docs, we have YouTube videos, we have API docs, and of course we have the great Polar tool for kind of rapid prototyping. So yeah, this was kind of our last community calls. We'll have another one soon to keep everybody updated about the progress there. So on the AI agent side, I think this is really exciting. The machine payable web has been an idea that people have wanted to see happen in reality for a long time, right? For many years, but it's finally happening today, thanks to Lightning. I think we released at the beginning of July, a new L402 specification, LangChain powered tools for AI agents, like a bunch of AI focused Lightning tools, which I think was really exciting. And, the community really picked it up. They really got it. They really got the benefit here. But I think Jacob Brown's tweet here about with Lightning, you can create on-demand compute paid at the time of execution is that's a really, really powerful idea. Paid APIs is something that, the developer community has wanted for a very long time, and now they're here. You can have machines paying machines over Lightning on a really high fidelity amounts, really, really small micropayments, which is super exciting. So, what do we expect to see? We expect to see machines with Lightning wallets engaging in data commerce, right? AI agents playing AI agents, whether it's agents purchasing training data, servers with data to sell to these agents. I think there's a ton of this new market of AI inferencing is super exciting and super ripe for new experimentation. And so when do we expect this to happen? Today, right? This is all possible today. We already have people building in this world now. And we just had a great AI for All hackathon that I encourage everybody to look at, with a bunch of new examples that I'll highlight a little bit later of kind of what's possible to build. And we have a bunch of these tools here listed, right? Aperture for the servers, the data to sell use case, LangChain Bitcoin, L402, DZ in the community is built, web AI tool, and there's just so much more out there for builders to build with. So again, this was kind of the AI for All hackathon that I thought was super exciting, and tons of inspiring content for developers to go back and look at if they're looking for new ideas. Then the final kind of frontier of growth is open social media, right? Everybody who's been on social media knows that kind of the Web2 companies are struggling with monetization, privacy, censorship, right? Twitter isn't even Twitter anymore. It's called X. So, we've seen kind of headlines about Twitter's revenues plummeting. We've seen headlines about Reddit killing their, hiking their API prices. And we've seen, companies banning certain applications for their employees, right? Like the social media wave, I think, has kind of reached a pinnacle in terms of what decentralized companies can do. And, it's time to kind of build on a new foundation of open protocols. And so that's where we're really focused on, and where we think there's a lot of opportunity for developers to focus. App devs and users that are sick of kind of a degrading experience, come build on a new greenfield territory, come build on Nostr, come build on Web5, come build on protocols that have built-in monetization vectors and won't have to rely on outside advertisers. Again, all of this works today. You can get started now, right? We have the tools available. There's Nostr, there's Web5, there's Lightning Address, and I really like the bring your own wallet model that Lightning Address enables, so that you as an app developer are necessarily tied to the restrictions of the blockchain or of Lightning Network, right? You can just kind of let users bring their own wallet. That I think is super powerful. And we've seen a lot of Nostr apps go really viral and get hundreds of thousands of users in a really short period of time. So there's a lot of potential here for new builders. And I think one event that I'm have my eyes on is Nostrasia at the start of November, right? This is going to be, I think, a really exciting time for the Nostr community to show off what they've been working on this year and unveil a lot of new products. So if you want to, I think it would behoove smart entrepreneurs to build something during this BTC Startup Lab event in preparation for Nostrasia to be able to show off to the community kind of what they have and what they built. So a couple more instances of people who have gotten started down these paths and are already pushing the next frontiers of Lightning. What should you be focused on? One, build in public, collaborate in the open. This hackathon, I think, is a great example of where you can take advantage of that. Two, build for real users and solve the real problems. And, in this new AI agent world, the users may not be human, right? They may be bots, but, bots have feelings too. And third, build on Bitcoin and Lightning. We have these compounding network effects that are really starting to accelerate, and building on this foundation, you're able to ride the wave of, Bitcoin's growth as a global asset, Lightning's growth as a global payment network. And I think it's really important that, as the Bitcoin and Lightning companies continue to pick up more users, new applications are able to ride that wave, and harnessing those network effects is just a once in a lifetime opportunity, I think. So, in closing, I thought this was a really cool example from Arun about kind of making Lightning payments integrated to Open AI, just able to build it over a weekend, right? Pleb AI here is something that anybody, could be inspired by and look to build their own version of or improve upon in the BTC Startup Lab Hackathon and Bitcoin Olympics. And again, here's another example of just how easy this can be, right? The code to consume an L402 protected resource fits in a tweet. How cool is that? The barrier to entry could not be lower, has never been lower than it is right now. And so really want to, encourage developers to get out there and start building with these tools today. And this was, I think, a final one that I thought was really cool. It ties together, two of the three frontiers of Lightning. Highlighter here from Pablo. You have a marketplace for AI agents built over Nostr to transcribe video. And how cool is that, right? Like you have, people who are running these local AIs. They're able to post their offerings to this marketplace, and you can, if you want a transcription of a video, you just put it out for bid on the marketplace and have bots competing for your services and monetize for their work. I think this is this is the future. This is the destination that you want to be, the direction in which you want to be looking as a new builder, because I think things are getting really exciting in this way, and there's a lot of open content out there. So, with that, I believe that is kind of the end of my spiel. Really exciting stuff happening. Really hope that communicates, the vision for building on Lightning, for building on the next frontiers of Lightning, for the opportunity set that's out there for new builders, and hope to see, a bunch of people building and during this hackathon. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. I have a really friendly community in the LMD Developer Slack. We have really extensive documentation at docs.lightning.engineering. We'll be in kind of the BTC Startup Lab Discord, making sure to be answering any questions. And yeah, I think that's kind of that for me. I don't know, Albert, if there's how I did on time there.
You did excellent time. We have 7 minutes left before your colleague Hannah comes up and does the crash course. I'd like to take advantage of the last few minutes here to touch on some things. As everyone knows, we have a $50,000 agnostic, or is Bitcoin agnostic. So it still has to be with Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter what technology you use. That means that if you use Lightning, you are also eligible to compete in that $50,000 prize pool. It's two $5,000 prizes, one $10,000 prize, and the grand prize is $30,000. So if in the hands of the right entrepreneurs, this can be a game changer and definitely allow you to take, for example, a Lightning hackathon idea and take it to pre-seed, where you could get potentially a few $100,000. Now, specifically how you turn a hackathon project into investment, whether you start up, well, that's where the Bitcoin Startup Lab comes in, right? By becoming one of the winners, you get an interview. There's no guarantee that you get in. It's very competitive, but you are guaranteed an interview. And if you get in, then we show you how to use, with very, very little resources, build an amazing product and team for Web3 on Bitcoin, right? And at the end of this, there are Bitcoin specific accelerators that will take a look at your project, and they give you anywhere from $100,000 to a few $100,000, right? Including, for example, Wolf accelerators coming to our demo day, which is they love also investing in Lightning products, if I understand correctly, Ryan.
Yep. Absolutely. They're huge fans of Taproot Assets, of Lightning, of Nostr. I think their first cohort was really strong. They're in the middle of the second cohort right now. Really excited to hear the results of that, because they've done a great job. I mean, again, just want to echo what our friends at Rootstock said earlier. Right? There's just never been a better time to be building on Bitcoin. There's never been more capital interested in funding Bitcoin entrepreneurs. There's never been better tooling. The infrastructure has never been better. I think how you closed the last session, I thought was really strong, in that, building in the bear is how you get funded in the bull, right? Now is the perfect time to get a head start, to, start building out your prototypes, to start figuring out what works, what users want. And, if you start building when the users are already here, you're kind of too late. So now is a great time to get started.
Now's a perfect time to get started, right? Like you said, Ryan, we're before the bull market, and the bear market is a great time to build. More capital has come into Bitcoin than ever, but there's going to be more and more coming on, right? This isn't the bear market, is more than ever. So this is a really promising sign. And I also love those case studies you showed, how Fedi and some other, these are not like small rounds, these are like 8-figure USD. This is very, very significant. And
that's what I really want to get that across, because this is new for Bitcoin entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
There's not been that much capital out there in years past.
Not before.
Right?
Yeah.
Not before. And so this is a great time to be building, because there's definitely money out there that's interested in investing in Bitcoin focused startups.
Yeah, absolutely. These are strong indicators that the market is ready now, right? And it's despite the bear market, these things are happening. So I always, the way I like to look at a bear market is, let's say even if there's 1%, let's say, growth, well, that means some categories, they're probably -49, but some of them are plus 50%. they averaged out to 1%, right? So they definitely Bitcoin is like above water in this case, as we can see from the users coming in, the capital coming in. Those are all very positive indicators. Thank you for your presentation, Ryan. And we're gonna, from all of you listening, if you want to sign up to the hackathon, it's at BTC Startup Lab. Sign up. Go to our Discord. As Ryan said, the Lightning materials will be there. Also, links into how you get started. Okay, so we'll come one, come all. We welcome all of you. And with that said, Ryan was representing Lightning Labs for all the inspiration, all the business ideas that can be built on Bitcoin Lightning now. And now we have Hannah here to help us with the crash course, right, on how to get started.
Hello. Yep.
Hi, Hannah. Thanks for joining us. We're looking for this technical crash course on Taproot assets and Lightning.
Awesome. Okay. Shall I get started then? I have all sorts of stuff planned here. So let me pull up my slides and I will share screen. So I'm starting the slideshow and we'll find the right button for the screen to share. Desktop 2, I think is what I want. All right. Can we see that?
Yep. Full screen. Looks beautiful. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Okay, so what we've got round about half an hour. So I plan to just very briefly talk about what Taproot assets are, and then get into showing you all how you can work with them. So we'll use, we'll look at the repo, we'll use Polar, and we'll look at the API, and then we'll play around with making some API calls via the REST API, just using some pretty simple Python scripts, and hopefully we'll, just mint some assets on a little local reg test network on my computer, and just give you hopefully a good idea of how you can, work with this tech, and how you can start testing it out. So, intro to Taproot assets. About me, name's Hannah Rosenberg. I'm a developer advocate at Lightning Labs. There's most of my Bitcoin resume up on LinkedIn if you're interested. I, of course, am on Twitter, and I'm also on Nostr, and I think that's the right way for you to find me on Nostr. I'm there sometimes. You can check out the full slide deck here if you'd like to just hold on to this link to make sure you can go back and look at all the various resources that we've added to the slide deck. So at the end, there's all links to, the docs, the API information, the YouTube videos we have up that walk you through it. So if you want, scan that and you can hold on to all those links for future reference. Okay, so what we plan to talk about here is Taproot assets and working with TapD. So of course, TapD is the Taproot asset daemon. So we're going to talk about how you can install that. And then we're going to look at Polar, which is the way to kind of cheat and just get it up and running really, really quick. So you can just, practice playing around with the API or see what it can do. All right. Yeah, and we're going to work with the API, and then we're going to talk about resources. All right. So let's talk briefly about what Taproot assets are. For anyone who's not familiar, this is just very, very simple, high level, and I'll direct you to all sorts of resources where you can really do a deep dive into this tech. But the idea is that we're going to take some data about these Taproot assets. And of course, as the name implies, this all works off of Bitcoin's new Taproot transactions, right? So this is, we take all this data that we can create about various different assets, right? And you put it all in this data structure, sparse Merkle sum tree, which we won't dive into here, but again, in the docs, there's all kinds of information on it. So you create all this different data about all these different assets, and then you hash it all down, right? So that one sort of root hash, Taproot assets root hash, and then using tap tweak, you sort of embed or commit to that data in a Bitcoin Taproot transaction, right? So this is kind of just a visual that gives you a little bit of an idea of what's happening. Here are some inputs to a Bitcoin transaction. Here's an output. Here's one Taproot output. And here we have this data structure, right, where all of our asset information is embedded. in this one Bitcoin UTXO. So that's a nice visual. Here's some of the really cool benefits of this protocol and, creating assets and committing to assets on the Bitcoin blockchain in this fashion, right? Is that these Taproot transactions that have all of these assets embedded in them are indistinguishable from regular Taproot transactions, right? So it's, that gives you a lot of privacy options if you would like that. And it reduces sort of blockchain bloat, right? You don't have to have these massive transactions to embed or commit to the different assets on the Bitcoin blockchain. And of course, that leads to lower fees. So there's some really nice advantages there. And again, there are some privacy advantages if that's something you'd like to do. And of course, all of this is opt-in, right? There's no need for a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node to be running, Taproot asset software. And a Bitcoin node can carry on validating or even, mining these transactions all without having to be Taproot assets aware. All right, cool. So that's now we talk a bit about how this can work on Lightning, which is where things get super, super interesting. But what we are going to be demoing today is on-chain stuff. That's what's currently ready. Taproot assets, fungible Taproot assets will be able to be exchanged on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which just opens up all kinds of very, very interesting use cases. Here, we're thinking about the example of, say, a US dollar stablecoin that can be exchanged on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And so we have this example of where we have Alice at one end of the network, and she wants to send this US dollar stablecoin all the way through to Zane on the other end of the network. So we can imagine that this is Alice here. She's got this connection to Bob, and all the way over here is Zane, and Zane has this connection to Yana here. And Alice wants to send this US dollar stablecoin through the Lightning Network to Zane. So we can see here is what we can do is Alice has a Taproot asset channel with Bob. She sends that transaction onto him. He does this conversion, perhaps, into just Satoshis. Satoshis get routed as they normally would via HTLCs all throughout the Lightning Network, all the way till we get to Yana, and Yana has a Taproot asset enabled channel with Zane. And that conversion back to Taproot assets, this US dollar stablecoin happens here, and that gets sent on to Zane. So you have this concept here of when you're doing this on Lightning is you can have these edge nodes. So the entire Lightning network does not need to be aware of the Taproot assets protocol, does not need to have opted into it. Doesn't have to know anything about it at all if they don't want to. This node right here can be just blissfully ignorant of anything Taproot assets, and this whole system, this whole transfer and transaction can still work quite well. So let's just watch a quick video on this just to get a nice visualization. Here we just have Alice sending it to Dave in this example, but same thing happening here through the Lightning Network and onto its destination. Cool. All right. So that was just very, very briefly an overview of Taproot assets. Let's see here. There we go. Cool. And we'll have a bunch of resources at the end. Certainly docs.lightning.engineering is always, first best stop for digging into this stuff, for tons more information on Taproot assets and all the specifics on how that works, which we completely glossed over here. But we did that. We glossed right over it because what we really want to get to in this presentation is showing you how you can work with this stuff. So if you're considering buying something or building something with Taproot assets and you're like, I want to play with it, I want to try it out, I'm going to show you today how to do that, this morning, this afternoon, and just test out working with the Taproot assets, daemon, tapd. So first, let's look at how we can install the Taproot assets daemon. So I'm going to exit my full screen share here. Hold on, I gotta move this little bar over because it is blocking. There we go. Okay. So first we're going to go look here. This is the repo, the GitHub repo. You can clone the code now. It is in version 0.2 alpha. This is still just for testnet. It's not mainnet ready quite yet. And you have all the installation instructions down here. So if you wanted to set this up on a server, you know, install from source, here are all the instructions on how to do that. And all kinds of information. And of course, this is open source tech. You can just dig right into all of this here. But if you'd like to do it the quick way, right? The quick and easy way, just to test this stuff out and see, you know, try working with it and see what it can do, then you'll want to download this program, which is available for Mac and Windows and for Linux. This is Lightning Polar, and this basically just uses a bunch of Docker containers to set up a Bitcoin node, some Lightning nodes, and then some tapd nodes. So you can get all this information here, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to set this up on my computer, and I'll show you how to set up a network and mint some assets. Cool. So that's what we're going to do. And when we do that, we're going to, these are the API docs here, lightning.engineering/API-docs/API/taproot assets. And we're looking at Mint because that's what we'll do. But let me pull up Polar for you. I have this already installed on my machine. Here's a network that I set up earlier, but I'm going to set up another one now with some tapd nodes so you can see what that looks like and how quick and easy it is. So we're just going to do tapd demo. I'm going to have 2 LND nodes running because Taproot Assets works with an LND node. So won't do these for the moment, just for simplicity. And then, of course, we're still always going to need a Bitcoin core node or just a Bitcoin backend node running. Okay, cool. So now we have 2 LND nodes and this very cool program. So lots of drag and drop. I'm just going to add in some tapd nodes as well, some Taproot asset nodes. Boom, there we go. And we're just going to start up this network. So we have 2 nodes. We have Alice and Bob. They're both connected to the same Bitcoin backend, and both Alice and Bob are running Taproot assets. So what's really cool about this program is we can just click on this and then we can do some actions. I'm going to give Alice some funds so she can make some transactions, right? You need Satoshis to be able to transact on the Bitcoin blockchain. And that's what we need to do to create and commit to some assets. And then I'm going to look at this tapd node that we have going here. Hold on, let me also do a bit of a quick mine. There we go. Make sure all those transactions have lots of confirmations. All right, and then here's the cool part. Well, there's lots of cool parts. This is the part where connecting is super duper easy, right? So here we can see all the information we need to just dump this in a little Python script and connect to the REST API that's running on these tapd nodes. So also set up here, I have Visual Studio Code. I have some scripts. This is all, you know, just taken from the API docs. I'm using the REST API here. And what I'm going to do is just copy, you know, over this connection information. And then I'm going to make an API call and we're going to mint some HANA coins, 10,000 HANA coins. So I'm going to come back to Polar here. I'm going to make sure I've got this here, gRPC host. No, I want the REST host. So that's just at localhost and 8289. This information should be exactly the same as I have it here. I'm just going to double check 8289. And then let's just make sure that things like our macaroon path is still exactly what we're expecting. Hold on, move that over. So you can see how quick and easy this is here's my admin macaroon, the path to the admin macaroon. I copy that. I come back to my script and say, all right, here's the admin macaroon path. Boom, I paste that in. Oops, forgot the parenthesis. All right, it's still network 2. So all this data I have from the last time should work just fine. So cool. Now I think we're ready to try making a simple API call to mint some HANA coins. So let's have a look at what we're doing. We have, some Python libraries here, right? We're doing the request library because it's just, the REST API. We're going to have to formats or headers, macaroon. When we mint some data, we can add lots and lots of metadata to that. So that's a very interesting use case. And you think about what type of metadata you'd want to add to an asset. Here, I've just got that commented out so you can see that that's available, but I'm not doing that for this demo. What I'm going to do is just mint an asset of type normal. I'm going to call it HANA coin. I'm going to mint 10,000 HANA coins. Here I've got enable emission set to true, which means that it gives you a group key. Essentially, it means I can mint more of these. So if I wanted HANA coin to be a stable coin, I would be able to issue additional sort of tranches of HANA coin, and also in future versions I'll be able to burn HANA coins when people redeem them. So we set enable emissions to true, and here's just lots of little Python stuff. Here's our requests that we're making, and here's some data, right? We can catch some errors, etc. All right, so now live demos, we have this script. Let's come over here and we're just going to run this mint command and let's see what happens. Boom, we have a batch key. All right, so in the minting process, we first prep things for minting and then we finalize a batch of assets. So let's see, although I didn't quite prep this option, let's see if we can mint a couple of things at once. So we have HANA coin. Let's also do random coin, and we'll do 100,000 random coins, right? So let's try this and see if we can. What I want to demonstrate here is that you can mint multiple things in the same batch, right? So we can mint all kinds of stuff and have that be committed to in just one Bitcoin transaction, which saves you a lot of blockchain bloat and transaction fees. So let's just run that mint command again. Let's see what we get. Okay, cool. Batch key. All right. So now let's come back and we want to use a different endpoint. We want to finalize this batch. So what should be happening is that we have two different asset types set and ready to be committed to in the Bitcoin blockchain. And this is when we go and create that transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain to commit to these assets. So again, I have all the connection information here. This all should be good. And I have this particular endpoint with the REST API that we're going to connect to, and our usual Python stuff. So we should be good to go here. Let's try to finalize that batch. Okay, cool. Now another thing that I've also done here is just, this is the endpoint to list our assets. So let's just try that and see how we've gone. Whoa, tons of stuff. So you can see that just spits out a bunch of JSON. Oh, I have stuff from the last time I minted this. All right, here we go. That is not very human readable. So we'll just exit out of that. And I'll come back to Polar and let's see what we've got. Hey, look at that. Oh, I had it. Maybe I had the name wrong from last time. This is something I was playing with minting yesterday, and we have our random coin. All right, so there you go. You can see that we are able to play with some very, very basic Python scripts here, and we're able to mint new assets. And if I go here, I want to show you all kinds of stuff you can do with the current API. right? We can get into virtual PSBTs. That's a whole nother thing, but that gives you lots of, in-depth control over those transactions. We have the minting service, and hold on, where do we have? Here we go, proofs. This is another big one where we can work with different proofs. You see there's many, many options, but we don't have too much time left. I want to come back here and let's talk about resources a bit. Then we'll see if we have any questions, or we can come back to the API docs and walk through that. All right, so we have docs, the docs at docs.lightning.engineering. So if you have any questions, you're curious about how this protocol actually works, you want to know the details, this is definitely where you want to go. I also have links there to the BIPs. There's some BIPs that cover things such as like, sparse Merkle sum trees, the data structure that's used in this protocol. Here's again where to find Puller if you want to just get this up and running on your computer and play with, talking to the API via some scripts. Here is, we have a number, I think we have 3 different Taproot assets videos up on YouTube. So here's the overview video, we have a demo video, and then we did another one when version 0.2 came out to show you some of the features available there. And then, of course, here are the API docs. Here is the repository where you can go read the code yourself if you're so inclined. This is the Slack. So if you want to talk to people about what you're building on Taproot Assets, you can join the Slack and go to the Taproot Assets channel. And then we also do a periodic community call, which is discussed often on Twitter. So you can go there to get information on that. All right. So Albert, do we have any questions or anything you want to discuss, or should we spend a few more minutes looking at sort of the API docs or the documentation?
Let's take a few minutes to take a look at the API documentation, because this video will be put up into our hackathon Discord channel. So that's really important for people to
okay.
run down. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. So we have all kinds of different endpoints available, and it's important to note is we're demoing REST here, but gRPC is also available. I just demoed REST because it's just so quick and easy to do that in Python, just using a couple of existing libraries. But what's really cool about these API docs is it makes it nice and easy. Here, I went to set this up, I was playing with this and say, okay, I'm going to do REST, and you have examples in JavaScript or Python. So I went with Python, and this gives me all kinds of examples here. And then you get all kinds of different details on what all these different fields are, right? So enable emissions. So it really helps you figure out how you got to structure that data to get an appropriate response from the daemon. So lots and lots of information here. And let's look at the different options available. So let's just start with the asset wallet service. We have Anchor virtual PSBTs. Okay, cool. So we talk about Anchor PSBTs and virtual PSBTs in a couple, I think one of the YouTube videos that's up. But what's interesting about the protocol is it uses sort of this concept of virtual PSBTs. It's sort of how these transactions, like these Taproot assets, when you're transferring assets from one user to the next, it uses this structure, virtual PSBTs, which is based off, of course, of Bitcoin's partially signed Bitcoin transactions, right? That standard. So that's, it's taking something that's, already well known and, that a lot of, developers working in this space are familiar with, and then just adding a few things to it that are specific to Taproot assets. And again, all kinds of information in the docs if you really want to get into this and work with, the API to, make transfers between users. then you know, want to dig into that. And these are some of the endpoints that you can use here, and lots of examples on how to do that. So we can fund virtual PSVT. We can work with internal keys. The idea being there is you can sort of in this structure have different levels of keys, you know, sort of that Taproot level key, and then keys on different leaves. Sort of, you can imagine it's like for different accounts where people hold onto these assets. All right, and we can prove asset ownership. We can work with some UTXOs. We can send a virtual PSVT. Down here in our minting service, right? We could have canceled a batch that we were working on, which maybe I should have done because I think I had some information from yesterday still floating around in there. We could finalize a batch. That's what we did today. We could list batches, and we can mint some assets. All right. Proofs. So this is another big one that often get questions on, and all of this stuff, you know, we can put all this data, you know, into these, you know, Merkle trees, and then we can commit to them on the Bitcoin blockchain, but we have to be able to prove that we own the assets that we're saying that we owned, or prove that we have transferred them, or prove that we no longer own them. And also what's very important in this scenario is to prove that we haven't inflated assets, right? That we're not creating more assets than we are making people aware of, which is important, you know, in sort of the, well, all kinds of examples, but in some cases, you know, you want things to be publicly auditable, and you want to be able to prove how much of something you're actually holding. So in that case, if you're working with this stuff on the back end, you'd want to be able to import and export proofs and be able to look at them and read them to validate all this stuff as you're working with transactions. So how transactions are done is sort of one user would send, I mean, there's a number of different ways to do it, but one person might send, you know, Bob might send a Taproot assets address, and then Alice would send funds, you know, using the information from that address. So you need to know how to create addresses and work with them. We can set our debug level. We can just generally get information on our node. We can list assets as we did earlier. We can generate a new address. We can send assets. Hold on, let me come here. There we go. Tap in. We can hold on. There we go. Universe service. Let's talk about this very briefly, and then we'll see if there's anything else before we wrap up here. A universe service is every TAPD node sort of comes with the universe built in, and universe is just where you're storing a lot of the data about these assets, right? So all this data is in these Merkle trees, and these, you know, that data, the whole, you know, Merkle tree gets stored in a universe. And it's important to note that this stuff can be very, very private. There's no need to publicly broadcast, you know, any assets that you have created or are holding on to. But in some cases you may want to, right? If I have the HanaCoin stablecoin, I'm going to want people to be able to see how much, you know, of HanaCoin is currently issued, right, in circulation. So I may want to share proofs with other information services that we're calling universes, right? So I would have my own built in, but I could also, you know, send all my data to Bob's universe service that people may use to get information on the state of HanaCoins. So again, we won't get too in depth on universes, but here's, you can have federations and all kinds of different ways to work with them. So Albert, we now have about 4 minutes left. Is there anything else we want to cover before we wrap up?
I think you did great. I think this is a great primer, and anybody who has a background in comp sci and programming can definitely get started with this. I'd like to make a shout out again for those of you watching this video. Sign up at BTC Startup Lab to the hackathon. If you use Lightning or Taproot assets to build your product, you're eligible for the $50,000 agnostic Bitcoin prize pool. And that's two $5,000 prizes, one $10,000 prize, and a grand prize of $30,000. In addition to that, you guys will get support from Hannah and the rest of the Lightning team throughout the hackathon. So I encourage everyone to dive in. This is really, really exciting stuff that Taproot Assets unlocks with Lightning, and I'd love to see some really innovative projects being built through a hackathon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what people build, and please, you know, come say hi to us on Slack, or, you know, join calls, or just, you know, be social. We'd love to talk to people that are building stuff using this. Yeah.
Wonderful. We'll connect them through the Discord to you.
Awesome.
I do see there's going to be quite a few great projects coming through here. And thanks again, Hannah, for joining us.
All right.
Until next time. Unfortunately, we're up on time today, but we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Hours. Thank you so much. Bye. Hi, David.
Hello, Albert.
Hi. Good to see you here.
Good to see you.
Wonderful. So, can you do me a favor and then log on to use your phone to log on to the Twitter Spaces? That way your fans could hear at least the audio of this Founders Journey interview.
Okay, but I'm having a more basic problem, which is video. You're gonna this is gonna be video, right? On Zoom, right?
Well, I mean, if you have video, it'll more people want to watch it, right?
Yeah,
But
let me just I have to can you give me like 2 minutes? I think I have some Zoom problem here. Let me just focus on the Zoom first.
okay,
And
no problem.
just do one thing at a time here. Okay, wait a second.
Yep, no rush.